Good morning, students. I hope I'm audible. Good afternoon, rather, because it's past 12. Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, students. Right, so I'm able to hear my voice. It has been checked. So, on that note, let me begin with today's class. So, first of all, welcome everybody to unacademy.com, India's largest online learning platform. I'm able to hear my voice. It has been checked. So, on that note, let me begin. So we, of course, are in charge of several entrance examinations in the country as well as school studies. So right now, I'm going to focus our channel, which is Crack Management Exams. We will be focusing on all kinds of management exams, which includes CAT and obviously all the other examinations. Because we are including all the other examinations as well, like IFT, MAT, CMAT, ZAT, etc. TISNET, that also includes GK. So these exams do have GK, so that is something where I step in. So I teach general knowledge for you guys, and that is what I'm going to take you through for today. Right. So a little bit of introduction on myself as well. This is myself, Aritro Dasgupta, and I have been with Unacademy for the last 5 months or so. This is my background. I'm an MBA in the area of forest management. Done that from the Indian Institute of Forest Management in Bhopal, with specialization in conservation and livelihoods. I've got over a decade's work experience in the areas of teaching, training, strategy consulting, executive recruitment, and in content writing. My experience has predominantly been in India, but I've also worked in the Middle East and been published in the US. And for the last, shall we say, uh, couple of years, last 5.5 years, I have been specifically engaged with the coaching industry, and that is what brings me to the fact that in the last these years, rank holders to several nationally recognized examinations have been my students. So I can include exams such as CAT, CLAT, DUJAT, etc. I think somehow the logo is not well visible. Let me just adjust a bit. Anyway, so this is all you will receive as part of the Unacademy platform. First of all, there are daily live classes. Um, so I have, as I said, been taking classes continuously for a while now. But even if it's not me, I have others in the team who take you through other classes. I'll just show you our channel. This is the channel, Crack Management Exam. So we now have well over 1,000 subscribers. So I'll show you how you can receive these different classes. Yesterday, for some reason, it was very well visible, the logo. Today, I can't see that. But anyway, so there are live tests and quizzes as well. We have tests which actually mimic the real pattern of the exam. And that is, a very good practice for you guys because you get an idea of how exactly the real examinations are run. The course content is very well structured because we have a head office in Bengaluru, तो वहीं से पूरा form होता है, वहीं से आता है ये सारा pedagogy, and that's what we guys also execute here. Once you're on board, you receive unlimited access for your classes. Yes, I can see the logo now. I think it's much more visible clearly. Right, there are live tests and quizzes, I told you, and also you get unlimited access the moment you enroll. This is a list of some of our key trainers. You may take a look at their names, also their experience, qualifications, watch minutes, and the followers. They are among the star trainers. Um, as you can see, this is a list of some of the live classes we've had, so you may take a look. This is again few more trainers, and this is how you receive the note. This is a sample of how you receive the notifications for the classes. So for example, any subject class you've missed out, this is how you can actually take it through. Likewise, you also receive notifications for different batch timings. Batch timings आपको कैसे मिलता है? This is how you receive it. There are different batches which have been formed. I also created a batch last month, which was on current affairs and a bit of static GK. Um, So this is how you can actually take it through. Now for example, this is he is one of our trainers, Arvind Shukla, and this is another way you can have your batches, which is for a single subject. So this, if you see, is for a single subject. On top, if you see, it is for the entire course, and that is why there are number of trainers who are part of that particular thing. मैं आपको अपना channel बता रहा था. So this is the channel, basically crack management exams, and if you see the video segment, you will notice there are n number of classes. So two classes are presently ongoing, and if I see, there are so many other classes that have taken place in the last couple of days. And I have also taken several of the sessions, couple of history sessions, World War I, World War II. I also took a class on economics concepts, and of course my regular newspaper reading. I've conducted a few classes on that part as well. So you may actually so there are some strategy sessions as well, like what's the right profile for an IIM, जैसे आपको यहाँ मिल रहा है. तो ये सारी चीजें आप यहाँ पे एक्सेस कर सकते हो basically, right? That's how things work very well with us. Right. Moving further ahead, there's a schedule that works very well, as I showed you. Even if you've missed a live class, you can always see our recordings. सारा archive मिल जाएगा. All you need is your mobile phone, PC, or tablet, some kind of a digital device. That will be good enough. Right. There is also no language barrier. If you see, we are present in 16 different languages: English, Hindi, Malayalam, Tamil, plus 12 more. So that's 4 plus 12, that's 16. We provide classes in all of these. uh, you may also get your doubts cleared anytime while you interact with the educator. And of course, there are live polls as well for you guys to answer. So I told you about polls. One is the full length test, but you also have tests which are conducted on the spot by people like us. YouTube, we have the live chat window on the right hand side. You can see, you can actually comment anything you wish to. यहाँ पे, that is one way of engaging. The other way is on unacademy.com. So please attend couple of my classes. I've taken a few classes last couple of days on unacademy.com. तो उसमें आपको पूरा अच्छे से आइडिया लग जाएगा. There are live polls also which can be answered at any time. So do take that as well. So unacademy.com में ही explore करना. मैं आपको बता रहा था there are live tests and quizzes. Now these of course are the tests. And once these are conducted, it's not just that we're conducting a test to give you a practical insight. That's one part. But in addition, you also receive right. So whatever classes you exams you take, you actually receive a detailed analysis for all of them. Right. There is there are PDFs as well that you receive. So sorry, there was a funny message from a friend. Anyway, so whatever classes that take place after that, you can actually download the PDFs. I'm not sure how well it works on YouTube, but this is something which will work very well on unacademy.com. So I always say that, guys, please explore the sessions on unacademy.com. That will give you a very good idea of how things work here. This probably is the most important slide, because here you receive the CAT subscription. So please understand, you can actually enroll using this method. This is my code at the bottom, AD09. So एक बार पढ़ लीजिए. Both these sides represent the same thing, both these boxes, but this one emphasizes on the 1 year, this on the 2 years. And I would only recommend you guys to go for these. Of course, these have their own merits as well. The 1 month, 3 months, that's fine. but nothing is as good as this. If you see the value per month, this is 3150, this is only 788, and this is 1313. So it's better you go for the 2 year program. That's the best. If you can't do that, at least go for the a 1 year program. एक बार पढ़ लीजिए, as that'll give you a good idea. Right, I guess you've all gone through this. So, on that note, I'll just move ahead. If you guys are ready, so I'm going to begin with the current affairs of a very important month, which is September. You've probably noticed I have been doing month by month. So, I started from January, Jan, Feb, March, April, May, June, July, August. I've done these 8 months. I started with Jan and Feb, moved to May, June, came back to March and April, and then moving on from July on a sequential note. So next couple of days are going to be big in terms of current affairs classes today, tomorrow, and day after. That's the one class each. And on Monday, not day after, today and tomorrow, I'm going to take one class each. And on Monday, I'm going to take one more class, right? So on that note, let's move ahead to the September current affairs. You know, the format remains the same. Whenever it's miscellaneous content, the headline is September current affairs. When there's a specific topic, then that is the headline. The same format I've used throughout all these 24 classes so far, and continuing with that. September, a special month for me. It's my birthday month, so I really hope this class goes particularly well. Okay, now we have the PM Street Vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi. That's what I'm starting with. There is this program, of course, Atmanirbhar, but this is for street vendors. Street vendors, as you can understand, people who are hawkers and thelawalas, people who serve on the streets. So, street vendors Atmanirbhar Nidhi. This was launched by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, or MOHA, MOHUA, as you can see, which is headed by Shri Hardeep Puri. He's basically the minister in charge. He's a Rajya Sabha member from Uttar Pradesh, and I think I had discussed that about this ministry as well some time back. So this is the first thing. This is a new scheme which has been launched for basically sort of affordable housing. That's the idea behind this whole scheme. And of course, very important post all these lockdowns, because during the lockdowns, what has pretty much emerged is that the poorer people have been affected very badly. And if you generally notice that a lot of these street vendors, they derive their incomes working near office buildings. So a lot of the offices have now gone work from home, and that has led to a decreased demand, massively decreased demand for their services. So this has been one of the issues here. Meanwhile, Mr. Pritam Singh, he is of Indian origin, though he's a citizen of Singapore. He has emerged as the leader of the opposition. So, Parliament, so Singapore does not officially have any such position. Like India does have, Singapore never had this position. See, Singapore never had this position. India does have this position officially, although Singapore and India share a lot of political systems together, thanks to the shared history of British being British colonies and the Commonwealth. So there are a lot of shared things, but this is not one of them. So he has actually scripted history by becoming the first ever leader of the opposition, officially elected, officially designated that term, and it is the parliament in Singapore. Singapore follows a similar parliamentary democracy, just like India, and they have conferred this particular this thing. So he belongs to this particular party called the Workers' Party of Singapore, and his leader of opposition position, as I said, conferred by the parliament. It was declared by the prime minister, who is Mr. Lee Hsien Loong. He's the Prime Minister of Singapore. For some reason, I have made a mistake. I've written OM. I'll just make the correction here itself. I think it's better you make. Better you make a correction here and now. Right, so that's the name of the prime minister. Okay, so we also have this global innovation index. As I told you, whenever it's standalone topics, this was September current affairs because lots of one line topics. One line says other stretch, okay, eventually, but yeah, that's the idea. But this one is a full-fledged topic. In fact, some of you might remember at the end of last month, which is October, I had actually conducted a session, if I'm not wrong, on the last day of October itself. That was on all the uh, government schemes, not government schemes, rather all the indexes. Right. So far, all the indexes that I have done since January, I did not do the whole year, only the first 6 months, Jan to June, those 6 months. So July onwards, I'm yet to do. Basically, in that class, I collated all the indexes which had been done thus far. So a very important session, I had say. And all these I will add when I take the next session, which will be from September onwards. That will be the idea. Oh, sorry, from July onwards till December. Index is very important. Please do not leave out a single index which I cover. There are lots of not so important indexes, but indexes become important when it's a credible body which comes up with this. Right. So Global Innovation Index, and this is actually an index where India has done extremely well. One of India's best performances. We have finished 48 for the first time ever. India has entered the top 50. Right, India's ranked for the first time. So this is actually a 4 point improvement. Most of the rankings we see, India has not done that well, sadly. Most of the indexes we've done so far, that's been the general trend. But this one has seen a marked improvement from 52, we've moved up to 48. So first time in the top 50. Rank 1 in this index is Switzerland. They have continued the ranking. Last year as well, they were rank 1. And why is this such a credible ranking? It's because the WIPO has said this. Now, WIPO is an extremely credible, respected body. It's a UN body. I'll discuss what exactly is WIPO. In fact, I had earlier done another index by WIPO, I think in the month of July, और उसमें मैंने विपो के बारे में आपको थोड़ा सा information दिया था. I will repeat that same slide. The idea is that you might have forgotten. कभी कभी बार बार आप बोलते हो, so that actually बार बार मतलब more not continuously, it's not rote learning, but दो तीन बार आप बोलोगे तो it reinforces the ideas. Secondly, many people may have missed out that session, so it's better I give you the full perspective. Right, so what does WIPO stand for? Let's understand. WIPO is the World Intellectual Property Organization. As you can understand, it is the body which handles all intellectual property. So innovation obviously is something which looks into intellectual properties. That's one of the best ways of sort of measuring this. The headquarters are in Geneva, Switzerland, like several other UN bodies as well. This is founded in 1967. Uh, at the peak of the, shall we say, the Cold War, because the US was getting really concerned that a lot of its technologies might be stolen, might be copied by the USSR and other countries, part of the, shall we say, the communist bloc, and is headed by a person from Singapore. We were just discussing a current affairs topic from Singapore's politics. So Singapore's Darren Tang is actually the head of this organization, which is he's actually the director general. Excellent. So I'm now going to speak about a very important body called hybrid. Please note it is not hybrid, but hybrid, HYBRIT. Right. So what does it stand for? Let us understand one by one. So hybrid का full form देख लीजिए. Stands for hydrogen breakthrough iron making technology. So the idea is that iron will be iron ore से iron निकाला जाएगा using hydrogen and not using, okay, let's understand pura, the next line will explain to you better. So it's actually the world's first fossil free steel making. This was started in Sweden. This is a phenomenal technology. Why? Because this technique is traditionally what is done is for extracting iron ore from sorry, extracting iron from iron ore and then converting that iron into steel. You obviously need a lot of heat, and that for the last couple of hundred years, um, steel is much older than coal in terms of human usage. So it's not that always coal was used. Earlier there were other methods used. I'm not 100% certain, but yes, there were other heat inducing objects that were used. For the last 200 years, it is coal which has been predominant. But whether it's coal or whether it's something before that, it has always had something to do with fossil fuels. Now it is a fossil free. This is something which is very good for the environment, because obviously the steel making industry is one of the biggest constituents of carbon emissions worldwide. The steel industry is actually responsible for 5 to 8% of global carbon emissions. Now, this is massive. Now, 5 to 8% का मैंने range डाला है because it could actually vary from year to year, region to region. Also, sometimes the exact data is not available, which is why I've given a slightly broader range, 5 to 8% of global carbon emissions. It's also responsible for about a tenth to about a sixth, so 10 to 15% of the global coal demand. So, if of course we just started with just one country, small country, albeit very rich, so one country, one company has only done this. It's probably not even 1% of this total, but it's a good start. If we can go through it, we can actually reduce 5 to 8% of carbon emissions annually and 10 to 15% of annual coal demand. Now, what exactly is hybrid? It's actually a JV or a joint venture between three parties. Which are those which are those three parties? Let us understand. One is a steel making company, SSAB, again a Swedish company. Uh, the other one is this thing, mining company called LKAB. Right. So there's a mining company called LKAB, and there's a state utility called Vattenfall. So that's what is exactly a state utility? Basically, a company that is a state. Owned by the state, and it is actually working out on this particular line. So one is a mining company, one is a steel making company, the other is a government company, which is a utility which basically handles all the transmission, the distribution of energy, right? So because obviously you need a certain technology transmission when a certain when you're using hydrogen, by the way, why is it so clean? Please understand, if I'm not taking the entire universe, not just earth but the entire universe, then at least as far as human beings are aware of at this point, hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe. So in case hydrogen is now used, then it can actually reduce the um, coal emissions much more. Right, moving ahead to the Afghan peace talks. Right, so this of course very good for the environment. Now I'm going to come into politics, but international politics. So this was actually, if you notice my newspaper reading classes which I was conducting regularly in this month, This was actually one of the most important topics which I periodically spoke about. First of all, let us understand who's the president of Afghanistan, and he's actually won a second consecutive term. His name is Ashraf Ghani. Before I actually take this topic forward, let us understand why are we having this discussion first, and why in India is it so important. So please understand that, of course, the US invasion started in 2001 after 9/11. I'll write it down on the YouTube live chat window. US invasion of Afghanistan began in 2001 post 9/11, mainly to capture Osama bin Laden. I'm sure you are aware 9/11 was obviously one of the most gruesome acts of terrorism in human history, when the World Trade Towers were brought down. Right, a lot into it, of course. So that is when US started the invasion, and after some time, when the Taliban was defeated, the USA established, with help of the UK and several other countries, an internationally recognized democratic government in Afghanistan. um, this was followed by something similar in Iraq. Iraq proved to be far more complex because it's a bigger country. Over a period of time, what has happened is the USA has suffered a lot of casualties, because they have realized that some way or the other, Afghanistan or the other countries cannot be completely kept tamed. Right? There are certain elements within these countries. While majority of the people in these countries do want democracy, there are certain elements which have ensured that the Taliban or the ISIS in Iraq, Syria, they have remained pretty strong. And of course, this is very costly, placing such a massive army in Afghanistan. So over a period of time, it has become unpopular in the US. So the US, and during Barack Obama's presidency, had started the process of withdrawing troops from Afghanistan, and now once again, Donald Trump administration, he remains the president, of course, till now. Even though he's lost this year's election, he remains the president, and of course, at this time, he remained the president when this was in September. Ashraf Ghani was. So Donald Trump had also reiterated they would withdraw the troops. Now, with these troops being withdrawn, that is something which is of grave concern to the people of Afghanistan and the democratically elected government, because they fear the Taliban could once again come back into greater prominence. So that's why Mr. Ghani has appointed a council for national reconciliation, which will have final say on whether the government will sign a peace deal with the Taliban or not. Why is this important for India? Please understand, Afghanistan is not far away from us. It's not like Syria is relatively far away from us. There are other countries which are having problems. Cameroon is having problems right now. That's on a different part of the planet. हमें डायरेक्ट कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, बट अफगानिस्तान का डायरेक्ट फर्क पड़ेगा. Afghanistan may, if there is no peace, if the Taliban comes back to power, that will embolden certain elements in Pakistan, which will further have ramifications on peace in Jammu and Kashmir, and maybe other parts of India as well. So for India, it is in our interest, national interest, to ensure that there is peace in Afghanistan. And India has made a lot of efforts. If you see, it is often said that soft power is the best way of dealing with terror, because if young people have something else better to do in life, they will not be veered towards guns and bullets. So Bollywood, for instance, Indian cinema is very popular in Afghanistan. Nowadays, cricket, for the last 7, 8, 10 years, Afghanistan is now a test playing nation. So India does support Afghanistan's cricket quite a lot. You saw Rashid Khan playing in the IPL. For this, the peace talks were held in new on neutral territory, because in Afghanistan there could be certain, violence that could be caused. It would be unpopular, so it was held at a neutral territory in Doha, which is the capital of Qatar. So it's actually tripartite. It's three parties are part of this together. One is the government of Afghanistan. There is also the Taliban. There is a third party, which is the Loya Jirga. What exactly is the Loya Jirga? Again, I had discussed this thing when we were doing the newspaper sessions. I'll repeat this again for those who've missed that. So it's a traditional council of tribal elders. Afghanistan might be a democracy in a way, but at the end of the day, these countries are rooted in a lot of traditional systems. So Loya Jirga is basically a traditional council of tribal elders, right? So they often take the decision. So you might be the president in a modern system, but it's a lot of the systems are handled by these council leaders. So India has played a leading role. In fact, India's foreign minister, external affairs minister, Shri S. Jaishankar, he actually did a video chat with the representatives to reiterate India's role. In fact, US has been extremely, the Trump administration has been extremely supportive of India's role in this. The US foreign minister, foreign secretary visited India to actually praise India's role and to reiterate that India needs to play a massive role in the Afghan peace talks. There's also significance in why it was held in Doha. Please understand, Qatar is a country which is sort of isolated by a lot of its neighbors, like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, UAE, etc. Egypt, which is not a neighbor per se, but it's another strong Arabic nation. So that's why Qatar is now looking at different friends. It is now on very friendly terms with Turkey, Pakistan, Malaysia, and now also looking at resolving it sort of sees itself as a sort of a as an alternative within the Arabic world. One great way of Qatar's soft power rise is Al Jazeera, the news channel, which is becoming a sort of an intellectual, shall we say, outlet from the Arabic world internationally. It's now at par considered with the BBC or the CNN, the DW from Germany, etc. Right, that's the level it is trying to aspiring to reach. And of course, the next football World Cup to be hosted in Qatar, that's another big one. Okay, now it's also need to discuss about Sri Pranab Mukherjee. He passed away in right at the end of August. It's September current affairs, but I'm covering a couple of things which happened in the end of August as well, because obviously he passed away on the last day. In fact, I remember I was taking a class at Unacademy, and that's when I suddenly got this notification. So he basically passed away on 31st August this year, as I told you. He was the 13th president of India from 2012 to 2017. Those were the 5 years that he was president. But that was of course his the last public post he took up. But he has been one of the leading political figures in India for the last 50 years. He started his politics in. He's from West Bengal, and he started his politics uh, joining a regional party which later merged with the Congress. It was the Bangla Congress. Then from that was in 1966 he joined. 1969 onwards he joined the National Congress, Indian National Congress, where he was appointed. He was given a ticket to the Rajya Sabha on a Congress ticket. He got very close to Indira Gandhi. Was almost a sort of a back end organizer. So Pranab Mukherjee was never really somebody who was a mass popular leader on the ground. He was nor was he a technocrat. So, politicians can be of different types. There are people who are very popular with the people, say Mr. Narendra Modi, Miss Mamta Banerjee, or Mr. Kejriwal, Karunanidhi in the south, Mr. Sharad Pawar, and say Jagan Mohan Reddy. These are Indira Gandhi at her peak. By the way, I think today is an important day for her. So all these people, they were mass leaders who had, or they are mass leaders who have massive popularity on the ground. Then there are technocrats, people such as, say, Dr. Manmohan Singh, or let's say Mr. Jaishankar, who's right now the external affairs minister. They are people who are not traditionally from a political background. They have had a career in something else, Dr. Manmohan Singh in finance, Mr. Jaishankar in external affairs, and they have become the leaders, the giants in their field. So they were invited, to handle a certain portfolio and become a leader. They are the technocrats. And then there is a third who are not really technocrats, but they are people who run the show from the back. They are career politicians, but they do not come out in the open sometimes. So Mr. Pranab Mukherjee was a very strong party organizer from the Congress, and he held several important posts. Um, he actually received the Bharat Ratna in 2019, which is obviously the ultimate recognition of your contribution to the country. It's the highest civilian award in India. It's a couple of posts that he took up. So 1984, he was actually considered a candidate for the prime minister's post. Of course, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was appointed then. So for a few years, Mr. Mukherjee formed his own party. It did not do very well in politics. As I said, he wasn't somebody who was on, a mass leader on the ground. He returned to the Congress. Played a very important role in the 90s. Finally, he got into electoral politics as well. 2004 is when he won his first electoral seat, and that was in West Bengal. 2009, once again, he won an electoral seat. So for two consecutive terms, he was a member of the Lok Sabha. He had been a typical Rajya Sabha member for several durations before that. So he became the Minister of Defense, Union Cabinet Minister, 2004 to 6. Then held the External Affairs Ministry, 2006 to 9, and also the Finance Ministry, which he's held twice. Once was 2009 to 12 during UPA 2, and then 82 to 9. It is actually 82 to 84. My mistake. I'll just make that correction here. Um, Sorry, I'll just make that correction here itself. 82 to 84. Thanks for giving me the chance to rectify. Right, so he's one of the few. I can't think of anybody else right now at the back of my mind who has held all these three posts: defense, external ministry, external affairs, and finance. These three, along with home ministry, these are considered the big four of ministries. Railways used to be, but now railways has slightly lesser significance. But these three and home, they are considered the big four ministries. So he's probably the only one to have held all three of these, right? So phenomenal career, somebody who is respected on across the political spectrum. Also was has worked with quite a few prime ministers, two prime ministers while he was the president, with both with Dr. Manmohan Singh and Mr. Narendra Modi, and he had a very good rapport with all sides. So highly respected, and does after he passed away, he received remembrance from all the different political factions in the country. Right. Moving further ahead, so India and Russia, these two countries are scheduled to hold bilateral naval exercise, which we known as Indra. Indra is something these two countries hold periodically, almost every year. So if you notice this short form, Indra, IND stands for India and RA stands for Russia. That's how it basically works. And this will be held in the Andaman Sea, close to the Strait of Malacca. I'm not sure if you're aware where is the Strait of Malacca. It's actually a very significant place. मैं आपको Google Maps में दिखा देता हूँ, उससे आपको better idea लगेगा. Strait of Malacca is one of the most important naval routes on earth because it connects shall we say. Okay, let me show it to you and you'll understand. And in fact, there is one small island country, a city state, जिसके बारे में हमने already आज बात करी है. That country owes a lot of its economic prosperity to its location on the Strait of Malacca, right? So I'll just show that to you guys in a bit. So Indra, as I told you, is India plus Russia. There's also another exercise called AV Indra. As the name suggests, this is an aviation exercise. So obviously, this includes the air forces of the two countries respectively. So actually, I'm writing down the name of the country. As you can see, Singapore. ठीक है, और मैं इसका डायरेक्शन दिखाता हूँ आपको फ्रॉम लेट्स से पोर्ट ब्लेयर, बिकॉज Right. So if you see, this is Port Blair, which is part of India. मैं थोड़ा मैप को बड़ा करता हूँ so that you get an idea where exactly we are. This is Indian mainland and this is Port Blair, part of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And वहाँ से it's a 13-hour flight as per this thing till Singapore. Now this is Singapore. Now what is the significance? Let us understand थोड़ा सा. This is the Straits of Malacca between the Indonesian island of Sumatra and the Malaysian mainland. Malaysia is also here. This is also Malaysia. If you see the provinces of Sabah and Sarawak are here. This is the mainland of Malaysia. And these are different islands of Indonesia. So इसके बीच में this is strategic location ideal for shipping क्योंकि one of the world's busiest sea routes because it's obviously how can I put it? एक minute. Let me also give you from Kuala Lumpur. This is the location. So Singapore, right on one of the busiest. This thing. That's one of the major reasons why it's such a prosperous, rich country. Right. Let's continue. So Indian astronomers have actually discovered one of the farthest star galaxy in the universe. It's a landmark achievement, and this has been named as this is the term which has been given AUDFS 01. Right. So let's continue. तो ये जो नाम है इसमें कोई full form नहीं है. That's just how things work here. Okay, September current affairs. Let's continue a bit more. So these two states. Now this is a very important scheme. एक important भी है, and it's also something which is rather innovative, and this is something which has been going on for a couple of years. It's not new. मैं थोड़ा सा आपको समझाऊंगा. एक भारत श्रेष्ठ भारत इसका मतलब क्या है? It means one united India, and it's the best. The idea is that you do as best as possible. So within this country, the idea is that different states of India are being paired together. So two states coming together, and each of them is promoting the other's tourism. Now please understand, you will obviously not have two rival states. If I'm When I'm saying rival, I mean rival on the tourist state tourism angle. Now a very good example could be Uttarakhand and say Himachal Pradesh. Both of these states give you mountains, forests, mm, and that is why they are next to each other, but they could be rivals. So if on one trip, if I'm going to Nainital, I'm unlikely to visit Shimla on the same trip because obviously routes are not built that way, because these are different mountains in the way. They are all part of the Himalayas, but they're sub ranges. So it's almost impossible to travel unless you come down to the plains. So when somebody visits Himachal, he or she stays in Himachal. Same goes with Uttarakhand. In fact, within Uttarakhand, Garhwal and Kumaon are again two different sub ranges, right? So Uttarakhand and Himachal partnering together is difficult because they are basically competing for the same kind of, shall we say, visitor. Um, but Karnataka and Uttarakhand, they have no conflict with each other. They are handling two different things completely, right? So that is why these two have been paired together. The purpose of the scheme is to promote national integration through mutual understanding among non-competing states in tourism. That's the best part of current affairs. We can do such a vast variety of topics, which is often unrelated. So the Election Commission, meanwhile, has set up India's first regional voters' awareness center. This is in Jaipur, the capital of Rajasthan. The first regional thing, and this will until now we had state-wise. So different states would have something, but this one is the first in the region. So it's in Jaipur, handles Rajasthan, but it also handles three more states which are Haryana, Punjab, and Madhya Pradesh. Right now, I'm going to do a very important topic, which is the official languages of Jammu and Kashmir. Right. So there was this particular bill, which is the Jammu and Kashmir Official Languages Bill 2020. This was passed by the Parliament right now. You are probably aware recently there was one of the Parliament sessions which was held. It was actually one of the shortest monsoon sessions because of the COVID-19 scenario and the distancing, the social distancing norms. So that's why it was done in that sense. But still, lots of bills got passed this time because it was the shortest. It was also one of the most productive, although there would be many who might oppose these bills. So that's a separate point. I'm not going to get into that. But yes, lots of bills were passed now. Um, Right, so this was approved by the Union Cabinet, which was chaired by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister need not chair all Union Cabinets, but this particular one, he himself was heading. There are certain demands from some quarters to also include Punjabi in the list. So, five languages were approved. Punjabi is not one of them. So, there have been some sort of disagreements because Punjabi is a language spoken along some of the border areas, but right now it is not included. So, let us see which are included, which are the five languages you which are included. You might actually get a question that in this which of them has not been included. So that's actually one way of looking at things. Anyway, so which are the five languages which have been included? One is Kashmiri, then you have Urdu, Dogri, Hindi, and English. So earlier it was only English and Urdu because Urdu, of course, is a link language across the different parts of the state. But now Kashmiri, Hindi, and Dogri have also been added. In fact, Dogri, if I'm not wrong, is one of the 22 official languages in the country listed in Schedule 8 of the Constitution. So I want to talk about Quad, which is an organization that is gaining a lot of traction of late. I'll just take a brief bio break. Give me a moment, and then I will continue with the rest. Right. So, what is the Quad? And the Quad has been in the news a lot lately due to several reasons. Because India has actually been conducted a couple of meetings of late, which is involving this group. As the name suggests, Quad is actually short for Quadrilateral, विच इज अ ग्रुप ऑफ फोर कंट्रीज. ये कंट्रीज है कौन कौन देख लीजिए. इनमें बहुत ज्यादा आपको सिमिलैरिटी शायद ना मिले, बट देयर इज अ रीजन दे आर ऑल कमिंग टुगेदर. India and Japan, sort of neighbors, like at least we are on the same continent. Australia, again, not too far off, you could say, or greater Australasia, and of course USA, because USA is omnipresent, omniscient. USA is everywhere, right? So that is what includes these four. But what is common between these four countries is that right now, and if you look at the polity for the last couple of months, all these countries are facing some sort of a threat from China. When I'm saying threat, I don't necessarily mean military, although military is also part of it. But more importantly, threats in terms of business, economy, and a sort of an assertive China on the Indo-Pacific side. Now, Indo-Pacific, by the way, is a new term for Asia Pacific. पहले Asia Pacific बोला जाता था, अभी उसको Indo-Pacific बोलते हैं to refer to the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. Mm, so now, again, what is India here? India, Japan, and Australia and USA. India, of course, we are facing the border dispute with China on Ladakh. Uh, then there is Japan. Japan and China have also sparred regarding several islands on the South China Sea. Australia is in a rather strange situation where Australian Navy recently did some sort of an exercise in one of the islands which is owned by Vietnam, and even that China protested. Although the UN has declared, the International Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague has declared those islands belong to Vietnam, but yet China, which claims those islands, said that Australia should not be there, the navy should not be there. So it was a rather bizarre situation. USA, of course, has been having this trade war with China, so it's sort of it's an Indo-Pacific alliance to thwart overt Chinese attempts at domination in this particular region. Now, India. Let me just write down Indo-Pacific के बारे में थोड़ा सा. What does this mean? Indo-Pacific, new term for Asia Pacific to denote Indian Ocean plus Pacific Ocean. Right, that's the idea of this thing. So India, Australia, and Japan have also agreed to launch an initiative to ensure the resilience of supply chains in the Indo-Pacific. The idea is that the supply chains, which is goods traffic, should, if there's any Chinese aggression, then these three countries could together launch an offensive against. Again, this is not hinting at a war. Please do not take this as a war initiative, but simply as a individual security. Right. Continuing with the Quad, there's actually a Malabar naval exercise which has been held since 1992. Malabar, as the name suggests, refers to the Malabar coastline along Kerala. But this year, but that doesn't mean it is always held in Kerala. Rather, this year it's being held in Andhra Pradesh. The idea is that that term, Malabar, is more of a, shall we say, that's where it started, that's why the name. But it actually includes three countries: India, US, and Japan. And this year, actually, to complete the Quad, Australia has also been invited, right? And as I said, it was held in Andhra Pradesh this year in the city of Vishakhapatnam. This is something which I'm not unhappy about. Rather, it makes me quite proud to see that China has derided the Quad as an Indo-Pacific NATO. NATO was actually a very strong organization. Whichever side of the divide one is on, that's a separate point. But the NATO, let's face it, was a very strong group. So if China considers this group the the Malabar Naval, the Quad as something of a NATO. I think that's a good one. It's a backhanded compliment, which I'm personally quite proud of to be part of. Anyway, now we move on to the September current affairs. Some more of the miscellaneous content. So Australian cricketer, I should have written legend, cricketing legend Matthew Hayden, one of the greatest opening batsmen in the last couple of decades. After he retired, Australia did see a massive decline. In fact, his very famous opening batting partner in Test cricket, Justin Langer, is the present coach of the Australian cricket team. Uh, Sticking with Australia, we've been talking about Australia and India for the last couple of slides. So again, Australian government has appointed former cricketer Matthew Hayden, an Indian origin politician. She's an Australian citizen of Indian origin. Her name is Lisa Singh. They're going to be the trade envoys for advancing business ties with India. The Union Cabinet, meanwhile, gave its approval for the mission Karma Yogi. अब ये कर्म योगी क्या है? Let us better understand this. It's a new national capacity building and performance evaluation program for civil servants of all kinds. Now, most of the civil Right. Capacity building का मतलब है you train people in their areas of strength. I can see somebody has joined this session. Welcome, whoever that is. Do write something. So it'll be great to connect. It's a program for civil servants, and it will also cater to. Now, this is the big thing. I would say this is the biggest takeaway is that it will also look into Group C employees who actually make up 89% of the government officers. Now, what exactly is Group C? Let us understand. Generally, when we tend to think of government officers, we think of those on the very top, the IAS, IPS, IFS, even the IRS, etc. We tend to think of them right on top. So those are the officer level who are the final decision takers. Then you have those from the slightly lower level, such as a lot of the state government examination, the non-executive level, they make up Group B. These two are the two strongest groups which make up hardly 5 to 6% of the total. I don't have exact figures, but we generally tend to think of them. And whenever these schemes are created, or shall we say, um, mechanisms are these are the people who are generally the beneficiaries. But now this one will also look into Group C employees, who are basically those at the clerical level. It's not manual labor. I'm not looking at people who are the multitasking employees, for example. No, not including peons or cleaning staff. No, this is the clerical staff, office staff, desk jobs, but not the highest of the this thing. So they required greater protection, and that is something the government will, so that they can improve their abilities. Because ultimately, a project is executed by people who are towards the ground. So it's better that they are better trained. Now I'm going to look at the World Digital Awards and what exactly they stand for. Let us understand. Good afternoon, Arpit. Great to have you on board. Please ask me if there are any doubts so far. Right. So now going to do the World Digital Awards. This is ratified by the world's premier accrediting agency, the IAA, which stands for the International Advertising Agency, which is very important and significant for this for this particular task. It's the first of its kind virtual summit in the country. The World Digital Awards announced its first edition awardees इन इंडिया। सो ये इंडिया स्पेसिफिक अवार्ड है। अभी तक ये इंटरनेशनल अवार्ड दे रहा था, बट इस साल पहली बार इंडिया स्पेसिफिक अवार्ड है। तीन इंडस्ट्रियल इंडियन इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट इसमें इंक्लूडेड है, एंड दे आर अमंग द जाइंट्स ऑफ इंडियन इंडस्ट्री। एंड आई गेस नो सरप्राइजेस, मिस्टर रतन टाटा, मिस्टर मुकेश अंबानी एंड मिस्टर नारायण मूर्ति। So basically the heads of Tata's, Reliance, and of course Infosys, they are the ones who are part of this group. Now there is this, there is this interesting rivalry which is between Forbes and Fortune, two of the leading, shall we say, business publications worldwide. So Forbes often comes up, whatever one does, the other tends to work on that further. I mean that is a common thing. Like for Forbes, Fortune comes out with the Fortune 500 list every year. So Forbes came out with the Global 2000 list, the 2000 most valuable companies on earth, as opposed to Fortune's 500 most valuable. Similarly, Forbes this time did the starting, they had a 30 under 30 of the 30 most talented people to watch out for, who are under the age of 30. So Fortune did something 40 under 40, as simple as that, although it's the name is slightly different. As I said, listed by the Fortune magazine, it lists emerging leaders from across the world in among influential people under the age of 40. And there are three Indians this year in the top 40. You may take a look at their names. Isha Ambani, you might know, she's the daughter of Mr. Mukesh Ambani. Baiju Ravindran, he's the founder of Baiju's. And there is Mr. Adar Poonawala, who right now is probably extremely important for all of us. Can you tell me why am I saying that while these two are very important, this person rather holds a lot of significance in our lives right now? Any idea who is he and why am I saying? I'm going to give you a minute. Think over this and let me know. I'm going to give you 30 seconds more. Let's see if you can give me the answer. Arpit, if you're there, I hope you can answer. Even if you're not watching this live, I'd say that you guys take a guess. And in fact, I have discussed with you about him in the past. राइट, लेट मी सी द रिस्पॉन्सेज। नो आइडिया। ओके ओके, मैं आपको बताता हूँ, सुनिए ध्यान से। कौन है आधार पूनावाला जी और हमारे जीवन में इनका क्या सिग्निफिकेंस है? आधार पूनावाला इज एक्चुअली द हेड ऑफ द सीरम इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ इंडिया। नाउ आई हैव टोल्ड यू हु इज। नाउ कैन यू टेल मी व्हाट इज हिज इंपॉर्टेंस? श्री, आई विल राइट इट डाउन। आधार पूनावाला heads the Serum Institute of India, which is the SII, and located in Pune. अब बताइए, मैंने आपको बता दिया who he is. Now tell me what is his significance right now in our lives. I've told you who he is, but tell me the next part. His importance. Um, I'll write. No responses as yet. Okay, so he's Serum Institute of India is actually partnering with AstraZeneca, which is a British pharmaceutical company, and with the Oxford University to develop the vaccine for COVID-19, which is by all means it is we are not far away from it. So SII partnering with which has five signatories. So this actually included a lot of countries which are from Central Asia, countries that were formerly part of the USSR. So the SCO was formalized in 2001. Before that, there was the Shanghai Pact, which was signed. So when in 2001, one more country was actually added in, and in 2017, India and Pakistan both joined together. Actually, India had been wanting to join. Finally, and China was actually vetoing India's entry, but finally China did accept under the condition that India and Pakistan should both join. Uh, right. In fact, the Statue of Unity, the SCO has come up with the eight wonders of the SCO list. There's this term called wonders of the world. So SCOs began in eight wonders of the SCO. So one of them is the Statue of Unity. Right. So, who are the SCO members? Let us understand. These are the eight countries that are members of the SCO. India, China, Russia, Pakistan. As I said, China, of course, was the founding member. Russia joined a bit later. India and Pakistan joined in 2017. These four are the Central Asian countries I was referring to. These are former USSR constituents, the stans, all Central Asian countries. They got their independence in the early 90s from the erstwhile USSR, and that is when they are partners. They joined this organization. In fact, these countries they have a lot of, shall we say, economic potential at success. They have great infrastructure, but they are sort of lagging when it comes to um, personal wealth, and that is where personal wealth of a lot of people. Although the dictators are very rich, they have a lot of resources. Some of these countries, so it's very important India gets its hands on some business in these countries. China has obviously already gone ahead. Right. Moving further ahead, let's discuss on a little bit more on SCO. This year, there's a particular summit on the councils of heads of government that will be on November 30th. India will be hosting in New Delhi. This event will be unique. It will have these eight countries who are members, but it will also have four observer members. Observers are people who can attend a session. They do not have voting rights, nor do they have veto powers. They can give recommendations, or those recommendations may or may not be accepted, but they can sit, they can listen to all the discussions. So who are these members? One is Afghanistan. Again, it's a Central Asian country. Iran, it's connected geographically to some of these. Mongolia, very much Central Asian, bordering both China and Russia. And of course, we have Belarus, which is on the other extreme of this region. It is a very close ally to Russia. In fact, I have been speaking to you guys on the political crisis in Belarus, and so this is the westernmost nation which is part of the discussion this time. Interestingly, one country which is not a member is Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan is from Central Asia. It is one of the five stans. There are five stans, only four of them joined. If I take you back, Turkmenistan is not here. It's neither an observer country here. So that is a country, and that's actually the richest of these five in terms of natural resources. It is the second largest natural gas reserves in the world, only behind Iran. And Qatar has also been an observer in the past. Observer, that's it, not a full-time member. So maybe we can look at these four plus Turkmenistan and Qatar in case of any future expansion. Right. So September current affairs, continuing to some more of the miscellaneous content. So Germany is actually the second European nation after France to formally adopt a strategy for the Indo-Pacific region. I've discussed with you earlier on what is the Indo-Pacific region, and right. So France was the first one, Germany is the second. The idea is that Germany is openly courting this organization because they fear Chinese overt dominance, and this is one way of thwarting that. The UN, meanwhile, the UNEP, which is the United Nations Environment Program, they've launched a new publication called Little Book of Green Nudges. This aims to inspire up to 200 million students around the globe to adopt environmentally friendly habits and greener lifestyles. Right? I'm going a little slow so that you guys can write things down. 200 million students around the globe to adopt environmentally friendly habits and greener lifestyles. Meanwhile, Lisa Campbell, she's a very senior person. So this is Canadian Space Agency. This is different from NASA. NASA, of course, is from the US. Canadian Space Agency works independently, though there's a lot of collaboration with the NASA. So it has its first ever woman president. As you can see, it's only a 31-year-old organization. So started much after NASA, 1989. NASA was started in the 60s, I believe. And Lisa Campbell, she has become the first female president of this organization. I had earlier discussed with you guys about GIs. I don't know if you guys remember. मैंने आपको बताया था कि ये जो GI चीज़ है, it's where a certain product, certain commodity from a certain geographical area is given protection, and certain benefits are adopted. Benefits could range from complete monopoly or to naming rights alone. So there is a particular pepper chili, red cherry pepper chili called the Dalle Khursani, which is grown in, I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, but yeah, it's grown in Sikkim. And of course considered one of the hottest chilies in the world. It's a red colored chili. In fact, I was recently in Darjeeling and I did see a lot of bright red chilies. It might be the same thing, I'm not really sure, because Darjeeling and Sikkim, of course, right next to each other. This has earned a geographical indication tag from the Department of Industrial Promotion and Internal Trade, which is the DPIIT. This is the body which can be one of the recommenders of the GI tag. Although the final tag is provided by a GI registry, I'll just write it down again. GI registry located in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. That's the registry, of course. Right. Moving further on, some more miscellaneous content. The RBI, meanwhile, has revised the priority sector lending guidelines. aimed at addressing regional disparities. So different regions, certain regions in India are economically better off. So if I look at, say, Gujarat and Maharashtra, if I look at the southern states, if I look at Punjab, Haryana, these are more, shall we say, economically better developed than, say, the central Indian states like UP, Bihar, MP, um, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha. These are some of the less income states. So this will help address regional disparities. What is priority sector lending? Priority sector is sectors which are essential for the survival of a nation. So things like roadways, cold storages, agriculture, dams, tube wells, water supply, irrigation, all of this comes under priority sector. So in fact, there are certain norms and guidelines for all kinds of foreign companies, especially that a certain percentage of their Indian investment must be triggered towards the priority sectors. Only then do they get the permission to work and to trade within India. That is usually the pattern. So now further guidelines have been revised by the RBI to ensure that there is greater amount of priority sector lending, so that whatever lending takes place, I mean, you keep giving loans, but some of them has to be towards the priority sector, and this should address the regional inequalities in India. Meanwhile, the union minister Shri Prakash Javadekar, he actually heads quite a few ministries. He has recently chaired a webinar on the first ever International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies. This is something which originated in the United Kingdom, and the idea was that the aviation sector, which is one of the greatest polluters, one of the greatest contributors to air pollution, should actually buck the trend and should start cleaning things up. They cannot clean the air, but they should reduce the emissions, especially the carbon emissions. A lot of it took naturally this year, thanks to the various lockdowns, which led to far lesser usage of the aviation sector than in the previous years. Um, but of course, more could be done in this. Right. India has meanwhile successfully flight tested a hypersonic technology demonstrator vehicle. This is I would suggest you guys look into Google Images, वो बेस्ट रहेगा. उसमें आपको पता चलेगा ये एग्जैक्टली exactly होता क्या है. Hypersonic, the word sonic means speed of sound. Hypersonic means faster than sound. It's a vehicle which can. I'm just giving you a very shall we say, tip of the iceberg definition. It's simply something that it's a vehicle which runs super fast. It's faster than the speed of sound. Right. For more details, you can check out the internet. Look at the Google images. आपको idea लग जाएगा. This is actually a very much a historical mission for India. I'm now going to look at the BRAP rankings for 2019. So I'll just brief you guys on that. थोड़ा सा समझ लेते हैं ये होता क्या है BRAP. So BRAP stands for Business Reforms Action Plan. And this has recently come out with a report which was released by the DPIIT. I just discussed with you guys about the DPIIT a while back. This is that same DPIIT. Um, right, which stands for the Department of Industry Promotion and Internal Trade. Rank one is Gujarat in terms of ease of doing business. Last year, I believe Gujarat, I believe, has been among the toppers for a while, but the likes of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana have also been doing very well. I guess they are also among the toppers, but the biggest gainer this year has a remarkable tale is of Uttar Pradesh. We tend to think of Uttar Pradesh as one of India's poorer states. We used to use the term Bimaru, but that seems to have changed. At least in this index, it is now ranked 2. It has seen the highest upward climb. I believe, I'm not exactly sure, but I think last year UP was 12th. In fact, let me give you a stat. As per the BRAP, as per the DPIIT, there are a total of 187 parameters which are suggested under various categories. UP has actually done well on 186 of them. That is truly significant. Arpit, are you there, or is there somebody else who's joined? So let me just write that down. As per DPIIT, UP has addressed positively addressed 186 out of 187 parameters suggested under various categories. And that is truly significant, which has helped the state to rise up the rankings. Right. Moving on to more of miscellaneous content. I think there's a bit of a lag in terms of when you guys are receiving my messages, but I'll just continue till then. Right. So we have the Indira Gandhi Memorial Trust, which is presented the Indira Gandhi Prize. It is presented every year for peace, disarmament, and development. 2019 का award है पहले declare हो गया था, but the final award was only given in the month of September, which is why I'm including this in the September current affairs, not to confuse anyone. So this award this year has gone to Sir David Attenborough. I don't know how many of you are aware, but if any of you watches YouTube videos or on TV watches wildlife programs, he has been one of the most renowned wildlife photographer, not photographer, broadcaster of shows, especially in wildlife, other things as well, but especially on wildlife. In fact, there's a TV channel called BBC Earth. If you turn that on, there are lots of documentaries which he and his team have actually shot and they have presented. Arpit, are you there, or is there somebody else who's joined? So, whoever there is, feel free to comment. I'll be happy to discuss. Vodafone and Idea, meanwhile, these are two brands which were separate. The Idea has been part of the Aditya Birla Group. Vodafone is a British origin multinational. They had a merger a couple of years back, but even after the merger, the individual brands continued operating independently. That has now ceased after the latest brand change. So Vodafone and Idea have now completely merged. It's now called the Vodafone Idea Limited, rebranded as VI. Now this is significant. इसको please थोड़ा सा देख लो. VI. I'm sure many of you are users of Vodafone, so you would know. And with this new brand identity, the two distinct brands will now fade away. So now there's no more Vodafone, no more Idea. It's gonna be V from now on. All kinds of payments. In fact, as I told you, I am a user of Vodafone. तो मुझे अपने पेमेंट में अभी आया V का इतना बिल आया है, नॉट वोडाफोन का जो इतने टाइम तक आता था. So I'm going to do this new scheme called the top to total scheme. So Arpit, you do study till then. Confuse anyone. So this award, this. Just give me a moment. Just need to. Right. I guess you're still there, Arpit. I can see you. ओके, सो ये बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट एक स्कीम है, इसको थोड़ा सा अच्छे से समझ लेते हैं। ये है क्या चीज, टॉप टू टोटल स्कीम? It's actually part of what is called the Operation Green. We've had a lot of operations in independent India's history. This is actually one of them. Right. So top stands for tomato, onion, and potato, while total stands for fruits and vegetables. Maximum fruits, vegetables, and food grains are covered under Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir was denied this scheme for a while due to certain, shall we say, differences in political systems. But now Jammu and Kashmir has been fully integrated with the Indian laws, and thus the scheme is applicable to the particular union territory. Right, some more miscellaneous content. 8th September every year we celebrate International Literacy Day. We can also use the word commemorated because it's less of a celebratory thing. It's more of commemorating something. This year this was the theme. So for a lot of these important days and dates, you need to know the theme. This साल का theme था literacy, teaching and learning in the COVID-19 crisis and beyond. I think this is pretty obvious because COVID-19 इस साल का सबसे ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट इशू था। और कोई भी क्वेश्चन मिले जहाँ पे भी आपको कोविड वाला ऑप्शन मिल दिखेगा, वो आप क्लिक करेंगे तो आपका आंसर सही हो जाएगा। And potato. There was a recent study by the NSO, National Statistical Office, and Kerala has emerged as the most literate state in the country. No surprise in that, but shockingly, Andhra Pradesh is at the bottom. This Kerala at the top is not a surprise, but many people have suggested maybe this index wasn't really, as valuable. Maybe the sample size was very small. Many critics pointed out because Andhra Pradesh, by all means, should not be so much at the bottom. So this was a big surprise to many. Right. Moving on to September current affairs. There's this French actress. Her name is Juliette Binoche. I particularly remember her fondly from the wonderful movie Chocolat. I don't know how many of you have seen that movie, which also stars Judi Dench, British legendary actress Judi Dench, and also has what's his name, Johnny Depp in that movie. Johnny Depp, Judi Dench, and Juliette Binoche in that movie Chocolat. It was brilliant. So I've seen a couple of other movies as well of hers. Can't remember really, but again, she's been an iconic actress. So she was honored with the Golden Icon Award at the ZFF or the Zurich Film Festival, which is held every year towards the end of September and early October. At least this year, that was when it was held. She's a French actress. Meanwhile, the world's largest rooftop greenhouse has also opened. This is set to, the idea is that about a tenth to about a fifth of all the food requirements in the particular city will be handled by what is called the Lufa Farms. It has opened in the city of Montreal, which is the capital of the Quebec state in Canada. And it's called the Lufa Farms on top. इसका भी image please देख लेना आप लोग, Google image इसका भी आपको idea लग जाएगा how does it work. And moving on, finally, there are 7 Indian Americans who've been included. Indian Americans का मतलब है they're American citizens of Indian origin, or at least they're residents in US. They have figured in Forbes. I was talking to you about Forbes and how it's a reliable business magazine. They've got a list of richest Americans. So richest Americans, obviously, that means they are American citizens. So this has been topped by Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, for the third consecutive year. He's number one, and there are 7 Indian Americans. You do not need to know the names of all 7 Indians, but just for your information, you can actually take a look once. Okay, some more of the September current affairs. First of all, Again, Australia is in the news. Australia does seem to be fostering good relations with India under the leadership of the present Prime Minister, Mr. Scott Morrison. So, Australia, India, and France. France, of course, led by Mr. Macron. They held a recent trilateral dialogue, which was held virtually. This was co-chaired by Sri Harshvardhan Shringla, who is the Foreign Secretary of India. Foreign Secretary basically means the highest ranking bureaucrat within the External Affairs Ministry, somebody who reports straight to the Foreign Minister or the External Affairs Minister. If I'm not wrong, Mr. Jaishankar, who's the present Foreign Minister, he held this post not so long back. There's a center of excellence which has been developed. A lot of these top IITs and NITs, in fact, many different kinds of colleges do have these COEs or centers of excellence. Any college that you guys will land up is also likely to have some of these. So this is on AI, the need of the hour, and inaugurated at the NIT in Trichy. Trichy, also known as Tiruchirappalli, that's the traditional name nowadays used once again. This is in the state of Tamil Nadu. And this funding has been sanctioned under HEFA. HEFA was set up in 2018 to ensure regular funding to higher educational institutions. HEFA का full form लिख लीजिए, Higher Education Funding Agency. So there are a lot of companies which genuinely want to contribute towards higher education, but they don't get the right tool, the right pipeline to do that. Since the establishment of HEFA, there is now a dedicated agency. So no longer the reliance on UGC alone. The HEFA handles all these funding concerns of the different colleges and universities. Moving further on, there is a new UN report which has warned that COVID-19 pandemic threatens to undo decades of progress in eliminating preventable child deaths globally. So India is one country which did extremely well over the years. From between 90 to 2019, it declined substantially. But nowadays, we could see this being undone once again. The world's first graduate level AI university. So they will be giving you graduate level degrees on AI. It's the first in the world. This has been located in the United Arab Emirates. This will be known as the MBZ UAI. MBZ stands for the ruler of Abu Dhabi and the president of the UAE. His name is Mohammed bin Zayed, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, and the university is Mohammed bin Zayed University for AI, or MBZ UAI, located in Abu Dhabi, which is the capital of the United Arab Emirates. Right, that's pretty much it from my side for today's class. I'll keep the session open for a couple of minutes in case you guys have any questions, any doubts. In fact, you could even ask queries on other stuff. It's barely 10 days remaining for your CAT exam this year, so best wishes from our side. This is a thank you slide basically. This is my code at the bottom. You can see AD09. इसको यूज करेंगे तो आपको 10% ऑफ मिलेगा, फ्लैट 10% ऑफ. So do make use of this whenever you're enrolling. Um, you can must like the video, share it in your circles with your friends, your relatives, and of course you do comment. And finally, the best part is subscribe. Once you subscribe, you will get an idea when are my classes. I also have a telegram channel जिसपे मैं सारी details post करता हूँ. um, so that will help you understand very well. I'll just keep the session open for a couple of minutes in case you guys have any questions. Arpit, I think you're there. Do let me know if you have any questions, and after that I will wrap up the session. best wishes from our side. Right. I can't really see any comments on this, so I think we can wrap up now. I'll just keep it open for another minute in case there's anything, and then fully wrap up. Right. So let's wrap up then. Thank you so much, guys. Wonderful interacting with you all. See you all very soon. Gonna continue classes tomorrow. I think I've got more sessions on YouTube and the special classes as well.